morning, everybody. So today we're going to be talking about 3 types of rhythm. So rhythm is pattern combined with implied movement. So you're going to want to add that onto your vocabulary. Okay, so rhythm is pattern combined with implied movement. The types we're going to look at progressive rhythm, we're going to look at regular rhythm, and we're going to look at flowing rhythm. So this first one that we're going to talk about, the progressive rhythm. So the full definition is a pattern in which each series of motifs incorporates a predictable change. So I've added in down here, I do want you to add in motif. Okay, so a motif is a 2 or 3 dimensional unit that is repeated to form a pattern. Okay, now if you previously wrote this down in one of the other videos, that's totally fine, but I just want to make sure that you know what a motif is. So a motif is just the thing that's repeated over and over. So like in this MC Escher design here, the motif is the fish and the bird. Okay, so that's what a motif is. So now back to progressive rhythm. So a pattern in which a series of motifs incorporates a predictable change. So what that means is, and what I want you to write down is, even though each piece is a little different, you can still predict what comes next. Okay, so even though each piece is a little different, you can still predict what comes next. So if we look at this picture right here, the motif that we're looking at would be these, structural pieces, right? It looks like it's probably part of a building or part of a fence or something. That's why the bird's sitting on it. So that's the motif we're looking at. Now, if you looked at this picture and I told you to continue this pattern, you would be able to do that, right? You would know that, if we continued it this way, then the next little thing, would be a little bit bigger, and there'd be another little thing here, right? And then the next one would be a little bit bigger, right? So you would be able to continue that motif. Okay, so that's what the progressive rhythm is. So on your paper, you're going to come up with your own version of progressive rhythm. Now for me, I'm going to use a letter from my name. I'm going to use E, and I'm just going to have my E grow over time. Now, if you want to do that as well, but you want to use your letter, that's fine. If you want to come up with a different motif, so my motif in this one would be my letter. If you want to come up with a different motif, you could do that. So like if you wanted to do something that changed in size and repeated, you could do that as well, okay? So the next one on here is a regular rhythm. So a regular rhythm is a repeated pattern that is both predictable and continuous. Okay, so it's predictable and continuous, so it goes on forever and ever. So you will know what comes next, and there's no change in the pieces. Okay, so for regular rhythm, I want you to add on, what will come next, and there's no change in the pieces, or motif would be another way to put that. Okay, so like in this MC Escher drawing right here, there's the fish and there's the birds, and if I had you do this over and over, you could continue this on indefinitely and you would know what comes next. Okay, so I want you to think of a pattern that does the same thing, right? Where it's continuous, so it goes on forever, and you know what will come next. Okay, so for me, and you're going to come up with your own design, right? So for me, I think I'm going to do hearts again, but I'm going to do a heart going this way, and then I'm going to do a heart going that way, and then I'm going to do a heart going this way, and then I'm going to do a heart going that way, and then I'm going to do a heart going this way. So if this is my motif would be my heart. And if I continued this on forever, you'd be able to tell me what comes next. So if I have, right side up, upside down, right side up, upside down, right side up, what comes next? It would be upside down, right? So it's continuous, you can predict what's coming next, and there's no change, all right? So you come up with your own idea to fill this box with a regular pattern where there's no change, okay? Now, the last one on here, oh, and just for clarification, the motif for this right here, because you want the whole thing that's going to be repeated. So the motif for this would be both of those together. So really it's like this whole thing together with this whole thing together would be the motif, right? Because there's no change. Okay, so now we're moving on to flowing. So flowing is large movements that sweep across an entire artwork and ties each part together. So go ahead and add that in there. So large movements that sweep across an entire artwork and ties each part together, okay? So when we look at this picture here, you can see the water kind of has a little, you know, kind of almost a zigzag or flowy line, and it goes from like big or small to big if you're going this way, but it kind of sweeps across the entire artwork, right? So it flows across the entire artwork. And because it's got those little bumps, even though it's a little bit different, it's not quite progressive, it's not quite regular, but it still has those visual starts and stops that are characteristic of rhythm in artwork, visual rhythm. Okay, so you are going to come up with a visual rhythm of your own in this section here. Now for me, I've decided I'm going to do, I don't know, my daughter's like rainbows right now. So I'm going to do a little cloud in the bottom here, and then I'm going to make a rainbow, and I'm going to have it start where it's little over there, and then it's going to get bigger over here. So it's going to start little and get big, and start little and get big, right? So it's going to kind of sweep across there. Now, if I felt like coloring it in, I could color it in, but I want to make sure that you have progressive, regular, and flowing rhythm, and make sure you do your own drawing. All right, thanks everybody.